Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined as always by Riley Fessler. How are you, Riley?
Good. Enjoying the cool-ish weather still.
Yeah, it's cool-ish. It's actually like there have been 3 decent days of summer. They've all been this week. And by Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
Enjoying the coolish while it lasts.
Coolish while it lasts. Yeah, exactly. Well, every day there's some new story of some new thing that we once thought was true about the U.S. that isn't anymore. And we're just like numb to it. It's like, hit me again, you know? Oof. I sometimes think we should just make a list, in the last 6 months, this day we lost this day we lost. Otherwise, how are we going to know? Well, I know. Listen to the DSR Daily. So, who's going to kick us off here?
I'll start us off. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu signaled plans to expand military operations to fully occupy Gaza, citing goals of defeating Hamas, securing hostages, and preventing future threats. The Trump administration has shifted towards a, quote, all or nothing hostage deal after earlier proposals failed, though details remain unclear and no new U.S. brokered ceasefire plan has emerged. Meanwhile, humanitarian conditions in Gaza worsen amid restricted aid access, with international outcry growing over both the treatment of hostages and the near famine state of civilians.
Yeah, let's keep in mind a couple things here. This war could have ended at almost any time after October 8th. It's all a question of what Israel set its goals to be. Early on, Israel said its goals was to eliminate Hamas, which is impossible. They later said it was to decapitate Hamas. If that was their goals, they could have achieved that in a few weeks. Hamas is a small terrorist organization that did horrific damage on October 7th and doesn't deserve to be with us any longer. I think we can all agree on that. But Israel's the most powerful country in the Middle East, a nuclear power with the backing of the United States. And it could have achieved whatever it wanted to achieve in weeks, not years. The reason it has gone on is because in Israel, the prime minister wants to hold on to power. And in order to do that, he needs the far right who have extremist views about taking back Gaza. And he wants to stay out of jail. A sign of this comes also this week as the Israeli majority, because the people around Netanyahu, in an unprecedented act, removed the attorney general because they thought she was not sufficiently protective of Netanyahu. So while we talk about this all in different kinds of terms, Israel talks about it in terms of an impossible kind of victory. The U.S. talks about it in terms of humanitarian priorities, although their priorities are extremely misguided. And we continue to support, as a country, Israel's devastation and horrors in Gaza. What it really is the story of one man's desire to stay out of jail and to remain in power. And the cost of that has been gigantic. And it is now clearly going to get higher. And the United States is going to say, well, we need an all or nothing solution for the hostages, without ever focusing on the other victims of this, the people of Gaza. But ignoring victims, and there's no minimizing that the hostages are also victims, but ignoring the vast majority of victims is something that this administration does as a matter of policy. And it's appalling. We approved new arms for Israel last week. And we've got to brace ourselves because now, on top of famine, you're going to have a much more expanded Israeli operation. And there is a strong desire among some in the far right in Israel to reclaim all of Gaza and ultimately to clear out not just Hamas, but the people of Palestine, so that Gaza can be subsumed into subsumed into Israel.
India has strongly criticized the US and EU for what it calls hypocrisy in targeting its Russian oil purchases while both continue significant trade with Russia. The Backlash Falls former, why does it always say former President Donald Trump?
You are just a cockeyed optimist. You want it to be former President Donald Trump. Just forge ahead, having left us all with that cheerful thought.
The backlash follows President Trump's renewed threats to impose 25% tariffs on Indian goods and penalize the country over its energy ties with Moscow. In a rare united front, both Prime Minister Modi's BJP and the opposition Congress Party condemned Trump's remarks as unfair and disrespectful. Indian officials argue that the West's own dealings with Russia undermine their moral authority and that Trump's tariff threats could seriously damage India's economy.
I know why it always says former President Donald Trump. Do you want to know why? Because I know, because I'm smart. Do you want to know?
Go on.
Okay. Well, you know, I am the host of Still Consciousness, the podcast on the DSR network about AI. Did you know that?
I was aware.
Yeah, because you're the producer of that podcast, right? So I know stuff about AI. I'm going to guess that you use AI-driven summaries of the stories, and your AI-driven summaries are written by something that is a non-premium version of a chatbot, like maybe Claude or ChatGPT or something. Is that correct?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, if that's correct, some of those non-premium versions stop refreshing their database a year ago. And a year ago, Donald Trump was former President Donald Trump. See what I'm getting at here?
I see.
So no, this is an important lesson for our listeners. This is, if we riff on all of these things, and it doesn't matter that we get a summary from AI. But we also have got to realize that some of these AI things are looking at the world through a lens that's at a remove from the current moment. However, if you get the premium version of ChatGPT, I think it is more up to date, which the company will pay for. In fact, the company has paid for it. So I think
you kicked me off. I got kicked off.
I didn't kick you. Oh my God, there's a rebellion in public here on our podcast. No, I didn't. Some bot kicked you off. Obviously, the whole point of having this stuff is for you to be able to use it. Well, let's remedy that. Let's not do that on the dime of our listeners here. Their days are.
I was never even told about this, so at least you knew it existed.
Well, if once you've been in the company for 2 years, like Riley has, then you can have. No, you should. Everybody should have access to it. Jeez, but don't trust it implicitly. Don't follow it blindly, like Riley has been doing. What's the next story, Minna?
The Texas House voted to issue civil arrest warrants for over 50 Democratic lawmakers who fled to the state to block a quorum and delay a GOP-led redistricting plan aimed at increasing Republican congressional seats. While the warrants are largely symbolic outside of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has mobilized state troopers and threatened legal action, including investigating the lawmakers for potential bribery. Democrats argue the redistricting map is racially discriminatory and have pledged to remain out of state until the special legislative session ends.
Yeah, the law in Texas, folks, is that every 10 years, as in most states, they look at the most recent census and they do redistricting based on population, based on some rational idea of, how votes should be apportioned. Now, having said that, typically, there's gerrymandering done then. The reason they're doing this now is that they fear the Democrats are going to win more seats than they will in next year's congressional elections. And they want to, by all means necessary, hold on to a majority. Who's they? Donald Trump. He asked Governor Abbott to do it. Governor Abbott is doing it. The Democrats are not fleeing Texas. The Democrats are using one of the few tools available to them to deprive the state legislature of the quorum it needs to pass these things. There are other impediments to getting this done in time to have an effect in next year's election, and we'll watch this play out in many places. This is one move. The courts are another move. And both sides seem to be willing to play a hardball. Could this spread to the rest of the country? As we have said, yes, it could. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. It's not great that the Democrats are doing this. But if the Republicans are going to try to put their thumb on the scale of next year's midterms, then the Democrats have to do it to protect this country from ceasing to be a democracy, because people can put their thumb on the scale the way the Republicans want to. Riley.
The U.S. State Department is proposing a 12-month pilot program requiring some business and tourist visa applicants to post bonds of $5,000 to $15,000, targeting individuals from countries with high visa overstay rates and weak document controls. The move is part of the Trump administration's broader effort to tighten visa regulations, including new interview requirements and stricter rules for the visa diversity lottery. The bond aims to ensure financial accountability if a visitor violates visa terms, though it may be waived based on individual circumstances. Citizens of visa waiver program countries are exempt, and a full list of affected nations will be published once the program begins.
This is fucking insanity. Charging people a bond to come to this country. We've already made it much less likely that people are going to come to visit the United States because of our intrusions into their cell phones, our deportations and detentions of people who are here under terms that are both illegal and in some cases legal. It's a shocking situation. But imagine you're planning a trip and you say, well, I've got a right to put up this money. Well, who will come? A business person will come. Will a family come? Will a family of four pay a bond? Heck no. Of course they're not going to do that, particularly given the fact that ICE is the most bloated police force in the United States now in terms of resources. And this administration doesn't like people from certain countries to be here. And you got to ask, why would you do it if you're already seeing major fall-offs in tourism, which is a $200 billion a year industry in the United States? And the answer is racism. The answer is, at the core of this is Stephen Miller, the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, advancing with the president's blessing, with the blessing of everybody around him, a plan to ensure that as few people of color come into the United States and as few foreigners come into the United States as is humanly possible, in order to sort of reset the balance, which is, of course, the goal of white supremacists. This is white supremacy turned into immigration policy. And if you think it's anything else, wait for the list of countries. Wait for the list of countries that they pose that say, people tend to overstay their welcome. You could almost make the list now based on the criteria of who they want to see in the United States. Minimum.
U.S. border agents have been ordered to halt deportations under President Trump's asylum ban following a court ruling that partially blocked the policy, allowing asylum protections to remain in place. The decision comes after a federal appeals court found Trump had overreached his authority by suspending existing asylum procedures through an emergency proclamation. The ACLU challenged the ban, arguing it violated both U.S. and international law, while Trump continues pushing aggressive immigration enforcement despite ongoing legal challenges.
Well, it also what's also relevant here is whether the administration follows this or finds other ways to, advance their goals. Remember, the Supreme Court's already said to them, well, while some of these cases are percolating their way up through the court, the administration can do whatever it wants. We are in this kind of war between the administration and the judiciary, and the administration has on its side the top organization in the judiciary. This is, what others might call a constitutional crisis, except it's not really a crisis right now because nobody is fighting it. The Congress isn't fighting it. One of the people who in the Department of Justice said, fuck the judges, was just approved by the United States Senate to be a lifetime federal judge. That's Emil Bove. So, The Congress isn't fighting it. The Supreme Court's not fighting it. And the president has immunity and ... These cases slow things down some of the time. They have some traction. The administration follows them some of the time. But over the course of the next couple of years, I expect to see many, many cases where the administration does a workaround around the law because they don't care about the law. They only care about the racist policies I mentioned a moment ago. Well, here we are. It's Tuesday. That's it for us here today. Of course, every day you've also got from us the Daily Blast from the New Republic. And tomorrow you've got Deep State Radio. And on Thursday you've got Words Matter. And we've got Solar Consciousness. And in a couple of weeks, we'll have AI, Energy, and Climate back. All of these things for you right here. And also every week for members only, Need to Know. And of course, members also get about 33% more content on the other podcasts. So if you're not a member, I think it stands to reason right now. It's a lot cheaper to become a member. If I'm right, Riley, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a lot cheaper to become a member than it will be for people from many countries to enter the United States. We don't pose bond requirements. You could listen to Deep State Radio wherever you are in the world, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and we welcome you. We welcome you from wherever you are. You can get a glimpse into the U.S. without ever having to come and watch the shit show that's going on here. Think of the money you'll save. So join us, be a member, listen to our podcast. Thank you, Minna. Thank you, Riley. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.